following breaking news this afternoon, this winter storm that moved in overnight and has not let up since. We're glad to have you with us. I'm Kristen Miranda.
And I'm Abby Tedros. In that time, we have seen snow, we've seen sleet, freezing rain is a factor. There is a lot going on in our viewing area.
Yeah, there really is. And in just a few minutes, we expect, excuse me, to hear from North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper. He is addressing the weather situation across the state of North Carolina. We will go to him live as soon as he begins. But we want to check in with meteorologist Al Conklin, who has been working hard following the storm since the wee hours of the morning. And let's sort of get a timestamp of where we are now, Al. Where's the storm and who's seeing what?
All right. Well, there's a lot going on, as you mentioned, Abby and Kristen. Now, right now, we've got windy, cloudy, and snowy conditions that continue here in Charlotte. It's Johnson C. Smith University here in West Charlotte, and you can see the snow continues to fall down there at Biddle Hall. And again, you can see most of the mountains and the foothills have been in the snow all morning long, with reports of anywhere from 4 to 10 inches of snow across this area. Now, it's been a bit of a mixture of sleet and snow across most of the Charlotte metro area, and then points farther to the south. As you mentioned, it's been more sleet, rain, and freezing rain with temperatures that are still below freezing. The low itself now is here in Georgia, coming into the upstate of South Carolina, and that's going to transition right up through the Midlands and then eventually up through the coastal plain of North Carolina and away from us. And by the way, I might add, on the backside of this, there's colder air coming in, so we're seeing precipitation turn back to snow. So I think all of us will wind up getting back into snow later on this afternoon and on into this evening. 23 with snow continuing to fall around Boone. 24 in Morganton. You've had about 7 inches of snow there. 27 Gastonia, 29 in Charlotte. Now we do get into the 30s and it's above freezing around Chesterfield, but not by much. That warm nose of air is quickly pushing off towards the east. And so what's happening is I think we will transition to a little bit of sleet here yet for a while, a couple of more hours, but then watch what happens as we go deeper through the afternoon. The blue comes back, meaning a transition to snow later this afternoon and this evening before all this winds down for all of us except the mountains. You will wind up staying in the snow off and on through the night tonight. And then, of course, with temperatures that'll be below freezing overnight, that sets the stage for a problem. On top of that, there's a lot of wind out there. Gusts right now to 28 miles per hour in Charlotte. A windy and very cold afternoon on the way. We will talk more about what we can expect for the rest of the week, when this storm's going to pull out, and another one that we're looking at potentially down the road. We've already declared another first alert, Abby and Kristen, for Friday. More on that coming up in just a few minutes. Back over to you.
Al, before we let you go real quick, do you think Fridays will be like this one, or will that, I know it's early to tell, but like, is that feeling more snowy or is that feeling more like this?
Well, right now, here's the thing. We're looking at potential for snow. This system here is what we call a Miller B, where that low I showed you is transitioning towards the east. The next one looks more like a classic Miller A, which, again, not trying to get too technical with you, but if it were to happen, it would be at this point more snow. But again, it's 5 days off, and we saw what happened with this last one, right? That we had what looked like snow, then it became a mixture of snow and sleet, then it became a mixture of snow, sleet, and freezing rain, and we even have tornadoes in Florida today. So these complex systems in the middle of the winter sometimes can bring everything, including the kitchen sink. Meteorologist Lee Brock will join me. We're going to break down what we think going forward, and we'll get you through the rest of the afternoon here before you settle in for some football. Back over to you.
All right, Al, thank you. Over the next little bit, we are going to hear from the governor. We're going to check in with our reporters who are stationed in various places all over our viewing area, from the mountains here, to the foothills to the Piedmont. And we're going to check in at the airport, too, because they've had quite a day there with a lot of flights canceled at the airport.
I think all of the flights have been canceled. We've been checking the flight board. With regards to Governor Roy Cooper's news conference, which is about to start in a couple of minutes, we know that they actually issued a state of emergency for North Carolina and South Carolina. Right now, we are looking at a DOT camera. Do we know where this is situated?
Wherever it is. It's a road you don't want to be driving on right now.
But you do see cars out there right now. Interstate 85 is what our producer just let us know, and it's definitely a winter wonderland out there.
I'm hearing from a lot of people who are saying that you really need to think that you're going to take twice as much time to get anywhere you need to go today.
Okay, time right now is 12:04, and it looks like Governor Roy Cooper is about to start, so let's listen in.
North Carolina is now feeling the effects of a winter storm that'll continue to move through the state today. As much as 8 to 12 inches of snow has fallen in some counties, and significant icing is causing trouble in the central part of the state. Conditions vary across North Carolina and are dangerous in many areas. Utility companies are working to open up a short section of I-95 in Robeson County that's been closed because of a low-hanging, ice-covered power line. Currently, traffic is moving through a short detour. There have already been a number of wrecks on our roads, and we'll have some specifics about that in a minute. For today, the best way to avoid a car accident or getting stranded is to stay put. Fewer people on the road means fewer car crashes. Plus, it allows highway crews and utility workers to get faster results. If you must travel, reduce your speed, increase your following distance, and be sure to clear all the snow and ice off your vehicle before traveling. As predicted, ice and wind has caused power outages. More than 41,000 homes and businesses were reported without power across the state as of 11:30 a.m., and that number, unfortunately, is likely to grow. Some counties have opened or are preparing to open shelters for people who are without power and heat. You can find a listing of open shelters at readync.gov. If your power does go out and you're trying to stay warm at home, remember to keep generators outside and away from open windows or doors to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. Never burn charcoal or use a gas grill indoors. And remember to only use 911 for a true emergency. Power outages should be reported to your utility company. We've all been getting ready for this storm for several days, and a number of our state agency leaders are here with us today to brief on preparation and response. Joining me today are Transportation Secretary Eric Boyette, Public Safety Secretary Eddie Buffalo, Colonel Freddie Johnson, the commander of the North Carolina State Highway Patrol, Emergency Management Chief of Staff Don Campbell, and Major General Todd Hunt of the North Carolina National Guard. Our American Sign Language interpreter is Nicole Fox, and behind the scenes, Jackie and Jasmine Mativier are our Spanish language interpreters. First, we'll hear from Emergency Management Chief of Staff Don Campbell. Don?
Thank you, Governor, and good afternoon. The State Emergency Operations Center remains activated, and we're monitoring conditions across the state. The State Emergency Response Team stands ready to assist state and local partners as needs arise. There are 25 counties that have declared a state of emergency, and 24 counties have opened their county emergency operations centers in support of the storm. We are receiving a variety of resource requests to support our local partners. Many are for high clearance vehicles and Humvees from the National Guard and requests from chainsaw crews to clear down trees. Those requests are coming in mainly from the counties in our west. Shelters and warming centers are opening to assist residents who have lost power. Currently, there are 3 shelters or warming centers open in Moore, Warren, and Iredell counties, and a few others are on standby throughout the state. If your power goes out, we remind you to report that directly to your electric utility provider. Please don't dial 911 and use that only for emergencies. And don't forget to call or to use readync.gov website for the latest information on power outages, shelters that are open, and more. That's readync.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Next, we will hear from Department of Transportation Secretary Eric Boyette.
Thank you, Governor. Travel is treacherous across much of our state. Many of the routes are covered with snow and ice in western and central North Carolina. If you do not need to be out on the roads today, please stay put. This will allow NCDOT crews, law enforcement, and our emergency responders to do their work. We have more than 1,600 NCDOT employees and contractor resources are out working around the clock to clear our roads across the state. We are utilizing over 1,700 trucks and graders. We are also ready with chainsaws and heavy equipment to cut and shove any downed trees. In the western North Carolina, crews worked overnight and are continuing to plow snow-covered roads, and crews in our central North Carolina areas, including Charlotte, have been salting trouble spots in roads and bridges since early this morning. Around the state, we have used more than 1,600 tons of salt and almost 200 tons of a mixture of salt and sand to de-ice our roads. Those numbers obviously are going to increase throughout the day and tomorrow. NCDOT is focused on clearing our interstates, then our primary and our secondary routes in that order. Travel is not recommended across much of North Carolina as we continue to do our work. If travel is necessary, please do not drive. The storm is also impacting eastern North Carolina with high rain and high winds. Due to the high winds, we have temporarily suspended our Soundside ferry routes to Ocracoke and the route to Southport. We've also scaled back our Cherry Branch ferry route. Heavy rain could lead to some of the flooding in eastern North Carolina, so please never drive through our flooded roads. Understand that like all industries, NCDOT staff and our contract resources have been impacted by COVID-19 and labor shortages. We may not be able to respond in your area as quickly as we have in the past, but please stay home and stay safe as our crews and contract resources are getting the roads opened as soon as possible. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Secretary Boyette. Now we'll hear from Colonel Freddie Johnson, the commander of the North Carolina Highway Patrol. Colonel Johnson.
Thank you, Governor Cooper. And I want to start by saying thank you as well to the members in patrol communication centers across the state and members responding to help those in need. Your work is appreciated. The State Highway Patrol has, as expected, experienced an increase in call volume in affected areas, and we know this is just the beginning. Troopers have been working throughout the morning responding to collisions and other calls for service in the western and central portions of our state. As of this morning, we have responded to 460 calls for service and 200 collisions in affected areas, and those numbers continue to grow. If you must get out onto the roadways, please make sure you increase your following distance, monitor your speed, and be alert for downed trees and power lines in the roadway. Emergency responders are making every effort to respond to calls for service as fast as we can while keeping their safety in mind as well. If you encounter first responders, NCDOT crews, or any that are working along our roadways, please move over and reduce your speed. It could save a life. For up-to-date roadway conditions, please visit drivenc.gov, and please avoid calling 911 or Star HP unless it is an emergency. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Colonel Johnson. Please don't take unnecessary chances with this dangerous winter storm. Stay put and stay safe. I want you to know, too, that we are very grateful for the people out there who are working hard right now in the cold. Our law enforcement, our emergency responders, our utility crews, and our Department of Transportation people who are working so hard. We're grateful for them, and we'll be back with any necessary updates. Thank you.
All right, you just heard from Governor Roy Cooper and officials with the state as they respond to a number of incidents on the roadway as we deal with this active weather. Looking at my notes here, 460 calls for service, 200 plus crashes. That's according to Highway Patrol.
And the good news is most people are staying off the roads. But as you heard them say, it's going to continue to be a problem for some time. And that's what meteorologist Lee Brock has been saying as well, because we're still in the middle of that gross mix.
We are still in the middle of it. We're not done yet. And one of the things they were talking about, stay off the roads, it not only keeps you from having an accident, but if anybody who does have to be on the road does have an accident, like say a nurse has to be at work or a first responder, it allows the first responders to get to those people and help them out. And so that other people don't slide off the road in the meantime. So just be kind to others.
There's nothing going on.
That's what it, right.
Just be home.
Just keep WBTV on. Watch us.
There's some football coming up in a little while. You just have some snacks.
Just enjoy it. Snacks are good.
You and Al have been busy, though. This is a storm. When do you think it's going to be out of here?
So it's going to be, let's take a look at the current radar. As of right now, we can see it continuing to push off to the north and the east. And so we still have a couple more hours. I can show you futurecast. We can take a look at that in just 1 second. Let's take a look. It's okay. So here's where we are right now. And obviously we don't have the current radar completely matching up with this. And so as we head into the next several hours, we don't have quite this much of a winter mix. There are some areas that are still seeing snow in the mountain areas and also in the foothills, but we are going to be transitioning a little bit to that wintry mix as we head into the next couple of hours. So that's going to be the case this afternoon, but as we head into the afternoon and evening hours, I think what's going to happen is we have colder air sweeping back in. So that's going to pull in more snow showers. And so there are some areas that maybe have not seen a whole lot of snow in a while. You could still see some of that maybe 4, 5, 6 o'clock this afternoon. One last gasp before that all finally moves out of here. And then as we head into the evening hours, this is 4 a.m., it's completely out of here except for the mountain areas. So Avery, Ash, and Watauga, you can add a little bit more through the night. But everybody else, our attention is going to actually be turning to the colder temperatures by tomorrow morning. So you want to talk about trouble on the roadways. I think tomorrow morning might even end up being one of the worst times. We have overnight low temperatures that are going to be back in the 20s in a lot of cases. So check this out. These are your temperatures tomorrow morning. We're going to be in the mid to upper 20s, low 30s in a lot of places. So these are the areas that have the possibility of seeing a freeze by tomorrow morning. Look at all these places. I'm going to back this up just a little bit. You can see by 7 o'clock in the morning, this is going to be really cold. And so anything that maybe be a little bit wet by the time you go to bed tonight, by the time you wake up in the morning, that's going to be frozen. So I'm almost more worried about tomorrow morning's road conditions than I am what's going on right now.
And the one gift that we have is that tomorrow is a holiday, so hopefully
Yes.
most people can stay home, but there's still plenty of people that have to work tomorrow.
That is exactly right. So be extra careful tomorrow morning. If you could hold off maybe a couple of hours, because here's what's going to happen. We have the cold temperatures coming in overnight. We have the refreezing tonight. But the good news is tomorrow it's going to be sunny. So that promotes melting. It's also going to be in the 40s. Now it's not going to be warm by any stretch of the imagination, but you get above that freezing mark and you do get melting. So during the day tomorrow, we're going to see a lot of this melt away. And by midday tomorrow, afternoon tomorrow, everything's going to be fine pretty much outside of the mountains. Where you have a whole lot of snow, it might take a little bit longer, but outside of the mountains, it shouldn't last too much longer into the day. Of course, you have refreezing going into Tuesday morning then. So it goes on and on and on. We know how this works, but if you can wait a couple hours tomorrow morning, that would probably be your best bet.
And I will say there is good news that DOT is working around the clock and they're out on the interstates, the highways, making sure that they're treating those roadways and making sure that, you know, the roads are treated.
Yeah, Al's watching another piece of this puzzle, so we want to get over to him. What are you looking at, Al?
Yeah, right now what we're looking at is, again, what you heard the governor say. We're dealing with a lot of different issues across the state, which is typical when you get a winter storm in this part of the world, right? We got in our mountain counties, it's all been snow and heavy snow. Then in other places, it's rain, it's sleet, freezing rain, and power outages. Now, what we're looking at here in Stallings, again, we sort of transitions back from we had snow, then we had sleet, then we went back to snow, now freezing rain down that way. And so you can see the tree is kind of coated there. The parking lot is certainly coated with snow. So we're seeing a little bit of everything across our viewing. And most of the mountains still dealing with snow, but into the foothills, getting reports of sleet now starting to come into the mix here. And it's been that way now across the Charlotte metro area. So in a lot of ways, what happened was the warm nose is kind of already shoved farther to the east. You can see that pink shading's gone all the way up into Raleigh, which is north of Charlotte. And so they're getting more freezing rain over into the PD River Valley and the Sandhills, less back in our direction, and it's been more snow and sleet than it has been freezing rain. But again, as we widen this out, there's the low, and it pulled up that warm air. So a lot of places between Charlotte and Columbia, there's been really intense ice through in here. Newberry County, Chester County, over into Kershaw, and that extends over into Chesterfield and then up into the Sandhills. That's been that zone. So the models did a pretty good job of this with the snow, not quite so much on the ice, because really in the metro area, we have dealt with more sleet than we have freezing rain. So our futurecast suggested, again, what snow is left will basically get pushed northward. Perhaps even in the mountains, we're going to deal with some sleet as we go into the afternoon hours. So this will be the case for at least a while. And then as Lee mentioned a moment ago, on the backside of the low, as it pulls in, you're going to get colder air that's going to sweep back in. So that will change everything back to snow again later this afternoon and this evening. And once the sun sets, and again, the clouds are going to be with us for a while, All areas except in the mountains, you'll continue with snow, but the rest of us will basically try to clear out here. And as that happens, temperatures will fall into the 20s overnight, and that's going to allow for some refreezing out there if, in fact, we get any melting at all here this afternoon. Here are the current wind speeds. These are just the speeds, not the gusts. The gusts are higher than that. That's another element here. So we've got ice and snow on these trees and these power lines. We have to be cautious because of, again, the gusty winds that we're dealing with. Overnight low temperatures tonight, as I mentioned, we're all going below freezing. And then we'll be colder tomorrow night as that system pulls away and high pressure builds in. Now, a couple things I want to point out going forward here, and that is this is what the American model is showing Wednesday afternoon at 4 o'clock. Here comes another frontal system. So we're dry for Monday, we're dry for Tuesday, lots of sunshine. As Lee mentioned, we're going to have a lot of melting. Then we get a frontal system to move in. There might be a little bit of snow on the back side of this, and that front is forecast to push to the east of us Thursday morning and then settle away from us. Now, here's what happens beyond this, though, according to this model. There are some huge timing differences on this, even from this morning, is that a wave of low pressure may develop on this. And so we're now forecasting mostly dry weather for Friday. Look what happens on Saturday. We get perhaps another round of snow coming back into the Carolinas. So again, we have to go with the idea that we'll have another first alert later in the week because there's the potential there for another storm system that could come back up and impact us, whether it's Friday or Saturday. Again, these models are all over the place with this. They're going back and forth with each run. That's why I say these are long-term models, so you don't want to focus too much on any specifics with this, just the idea that the trend is going to be perhaps towards another system coming our way. 29 for tonight. Tomorrow, mostly sunny. Gusty winds, though, and there'll be snow showers in the mountains during at least the early part of the day before even their drier conditions come in. 23 then in the morning on Tuesday. We're up to 46. Then Wednesday we get that next front, and then we'll try and figure out the timing on this with the next deal coming our way. There may be more snow perhaps Friday or Saturday coming back into the Carolinas. We will keep you posted. So keeping us busy here for sure. Abby, Kristen, back over to you.
All right, there's a lot going on in the Weather Center. Al just timed out that system for us. And now we want to get a check of what it's looking like outside in the Queen City.
Right now we have Courtney Cole, who is live at Marshall Park for us this afternoon. Courtney, you've moved from your location that you were at this morning. How are things in Marshall Park?
Good afternoon, ladies. My location has changed, but a lot of what I'm seeing and feeling is about the same. I know you all talked about wind speed, wind gust earlier. It's very windy. I can hear the wind. I can hear the sleet hitting my jacket, hitting the ground. I'm going to go ahead and show you this intersection. We've been talking about travel all morning, about the need to be safe and careful. Well, there's no one there right now, but we've seen dozens of cars passing through in the last hour here on South McDowell Street and East 3rd Street. You can even see the tire tracks, or what's left of them, on the roadways. It's getting covered up pretty quickly again with this falling precipitation. Want to remind you all, if you have to travel today, slow down, pump your brakes. Don't be afraid to go slow. Even personally, myself and my photographer, when we were driving here, there were a couple moments, even while driving slow, we started to lose traction. So don't suddenly pump your brakes. Just slow down like that car right there. Just keep it slow, keep it pushing. Be very careful. And again, that wind, you're seeing some of those stoplights starting to sway, tree limbs over here across the street. It's definitely picking up with the wind right now. Still very cold and bitter out here, but you know, we're hanging in there. We're keeping an eye on everything. Not seeing too many people out frolicking in the weather, not too many cars either, but people are still driving. Just a reminder for you all at home, don't travel, unless you absolutely have to. I'm going to go ahead and send it back to you all in the studio. For now, reporting live in Marshall Park, Courtney Cole, WBTV, on your side.
Just a little longer, Courtney. Your day is almost done, and you can stay warm for a good 12 to 24 hours. We've had a major concern for a lot of people throughout the day, really the fear that people would lose power. As we expect the freezing rain and the sleet eventually is likely going to cause some power outages in our area.
Duke Energy predicting as many as 750,000 power outages were possible by the end of this storm. So we want to check in with Maddie Garner. She's in our newsroom right now. Maddie, what are the power outages looking like right now?
Well, I have to be honest with you guys, they look a lot different than they did just an hour ago. And like you said, we are expecting those power outages to only increase throughout the day. Of course, when we get ice like this, Power outages are the problem. I'll bring up Duke Energy's power map for you now. You can see the outages throughout the Carolinas looking a lot different. More of those dots showing up than we saw just a couple of hours ago. If we zoom in a little bit closer to Charlotte, you can see most of them are concentrated toward the North Charlotte area. The most right now we are seeing right here just off 77 in the Firestone Garden Park neighborhood. Just 165 customers affected right now. I reached out to Duke Energy, a spokesperson, and said, when we see storms like this, how long does it typically take until the widespread power outages begin? Not specific to this storm, but just to give us a general idea of what time we should start to expect the lights to go off for more people in the area. Of course, we don't want that to happen, but we do expect it. He sent me back a long paragraph kind of explaining what happens here, and he says it takes about 1/4 of an inch on tree limbs for those to start coming down, and when the tree limbs start to fall, and they fall into the power lines, of course, that brings the lines down as well. He says when it gets to 1/2 inch of ice that collects on the power line itself, it can impact the line itself and cause it to sag. So once we see 1/4 of an inch of ice start to build up, we do expect those power outages to increase. Once it gets to 1/2 inch, it could get worse. He said what's amazing about it is it can happen all at once, practically nothing going on, and then all of a sudden it gets really busy. And we just heard from the governor that 41,000 North Carolinians did not have power as of 11:30. Most of those outages still concentrated to the Sandhills area of the state, but you can see they're starting to pop up once again. We're not just checking in on Duke Energy, we're also checking in on our cooperatives, and we have a full list of how you can contact your energy provider on WBTV.com, as well as live updates with those outages. But we did hear from the NC Electric cooperatives this morning. They are already reporting outages today, and they said that they expect more to come up throughout the day goes on. So we are keeping a close eye on all of those energy providers. And again, you can find that list right now on WBTV.com. Also keeping a close eye on this outage map. Guys, I tell you what I've heard throughout the week when we've been checking in with emergency management and with Duke Energy, and we know that they have a lot of crews stationed right here in Charlotte, even at Charlotte Motor Speedway, but they're all saying when the power goes out, don't call 911. Do not call 911. You can report it to your specific energy provider because we want to keep those 911 lines open for people who do have those actual emergencies. And it is not too late to sort of get a kit together around your house, collect the items that you may need should your power go out later on today. And with that ice accumulating quickly, we do expect that to happen, but that is why we are here to keep you updated. And if you do lose power and you can't watch us on your TV, make sure your phone is charged because we are live streaming right here to you all day as well.
All right, Maddie, thank you so much. We'll see you in a few minutes. We want to get a look at the mountains this afternoon as they are seeing plenty of snow.
WBTV's Liliana Pearson is up in Boone for us right now. Liliana, I know the last time we checked in with you around 10 o'clock this morning, you measured the snow as about 9 inches or so. So how much snow are you seeing right now?
There's a lot of snow. If you take a look at my feet right now, I'm standing on grass. And it is well up to my shins at this point. So we have quite a bit of snow out here, and I'm expecting a lot more. The snow, the type of snow that we've been getting, it's literally changing by the second as I'm talking to you here. I don't know if you can tell how giant some of these flakes are that are falling from the sky. Some of them look like they're the size of quarters to me. Probably less than a minute ago, it was these tiny little ice pellets. And now these snowflakes are just getting bigger and fatter. I can literally feel them as they're starting to hit me. They are getting so big. They are falling so fast and so hard. So I'm only expecting to get more and more snow. You might remember earlier today, I built this tiny little snowman. And if we actually take a look at him over here, you can see that nothing of him showing anymore. Just his little carrot nose is sticking up out of there. So a lot of snow is accumulating up here in the mountains. Things are very cold, very windy, but this snow just keeps coming down harder and harder, so we're really keeping an eye on it. In Boone, I'm Liliana Pearson, WBTV on your side.
Should have gotten those full-size carrots, Liliana. We had no idea. Now we're going to lose his nose. We appreciate all your hard work as well. Thank you, Liliana. The airlines are reporting some flight cancellations at Charlotte Douglas International. I shouldn't say some flight cancellations. A lot of them. More than 1,000 flights are canceled today because of the winter storm. So here's a look right now from the airport's flight board. And as you can see, it is all red. Virtually every flight in or out is off the books for the day. And the conditions honestly won't be great tomorrow either. You heard Lee talking about that. So we're going to check in throughout the day today to see if any of the statuses of those flights change. We have a crew headed to the airport now as well. So we'll get an idea of what it looks like there. Actually, we can look at it right now. This is what it looks like at the airport. Empty. Hopefully people got the memo and knew not to come to the airport in order to catch those flights because they are canceled. So as you can see, it's a very slow moment, but I bet the phones are ringing off the hooks at the airport to try to get people rebooked. We're going to follow what's happening and give you the latest information, both online and on the air.
So we've checked in on the metro and the mountains. Time to get a check of the Foothills and see how they're holding out.
All right, WBTV's Lowell Rose is live from Hickory for us now. Last time we saw you, Lowell, your beard was freezing. How you doing now?
Hey, things are going okay out here. My beard isn't freezing. That's because the snow has changed over to sleet. It's been like that for a few hours now. I think when the last time you saw me during the 8 o'clock hour, the snow was coming down pretty heavy out here in Hickory. But I'm going to give you a quick shot of I-40 here in Hickory. There's a decent amount of traffic on the roads right now. Cars seem to be taking it slow. We've seen a steady pace of snow plows making their way on each side of the highway, getting that snow out of the way. And if you just take a look at this truck right here, you can see that snow just picking up behind those cars there. But traffic here has been steady. We haven't seen any emergency vehicles, no accidents so far. Let's hope that it stays that way. As you heard the governor, as you heard the emergency officials, they're telling people to please stay off of the roads. I would say since then, the 8 o'clock hour, I've did a few measurements and I've gotten two different totals. I know earlier we were looking at roughly 2 to 3 inches. So we're going to give a live update of the snow total here beside I-40 in Hickory. And here we go. It's saying a little over 4 inches, about 4.5 inches here. I would say over by the parking lot, we're picking up about 3.5 inches. So the totals are varying here in this area, but so far that latest total is about 3 inches here in the mountains. I do want to throw you to some quick sound. I was able to talk to a guy. Him and his family, they made their way out this way to see snow. They're from the eastern part of the state. And take a listen there.
Just take a trip to see the snow. From the coast, we don't see much snow down there at all. And so just a little quick weekend trip. And now we're trying to get home.
Now, that gentleman, he tells me that they're trying to make their way to Lumberton. That's about 3+ hours from here in Hickory. His thing was he has a diesel truck, so he said he's well experienced in this. But emergency officials are telling everyone, including us, to please stay off those roads. As things get icy, the roads are tough. Here in Catawba County, county officials issued a state of emergency, and they posted on the Twitter page that, hey, this side of town looks just like the other side of town, so don't come out looking at the snow. Don't get into any accidents. Don't act a fool out here on the roads. But we'll keep you updated on the road conditions and how things are looking. So far, it's been sleet for about 2 hours here or more in Hickory. Reporting live in Hickory, Lowell Rose, WBTV, on your side.
Call it like you see it, Lowell. I love it. I mean, they gave you a prime example of what not to do out there. We appreciate it, Lowell. Thank you.
We have also been seeing a lot of pictures of what things look like in our neighborhoods this afternoon.
That's right. With many neighborhoods seeing a mix of winter weather right now, there have been some really cool pictures. So let's go back to WBTV's Maddie Gardner. She is in the newsroom. You've been all over the social medias, Maddie, and you're seeing the best of the best out there.
This is my favorite part of snow days. Not the power outages that I had to update you guys on earlier. It is the snow pictures. Let's get right to it. By the way, if you want your photo or your video shared to us, this is the hashtag to use, SnowBTV. Isn't that clever? The W is the end of snow and the beginning of BTV. I love that. All right, let's take a look at what we're seeing right now. Our very own Jamie Bowles sent in some pictures this morning of his neighborhood. You can see the ice starting to build up there. The sidewalks covered as well. I have to tell you, my favorite picture so far are of the kiddos. Look how happy people are to be out in the snow this morning. The play sets are always more fun when there is snow on the slide, I have to tell you. Sarah sending these in. She says, 5-year-old living his best life. 2-year-old not so sure. Do you see the snow angel in the back there looking mighty cute this morning? We are also seeing a lot of sledding videos. This one might take the cake. And I have to be honest, this is one of our coworkers, Corey Schmidt, but he and his kiddos going down the hill head first. And of course, as one of our awesome photojournalists, he got it all on the GoPro. But just the joy that the snow tends to bring out in people. Super, super cute. I'm trying to figure out where I can get one of those hats with the bear on top, because it's mighty precious as well. Everyone having a good time out there. And even though we do see more ice than snow right now in Charlotte, it's clearly not stopping people from heading to their favorite sledding hill and trying to see what can happen. Here we have a video out of Cornelius that Chris sent in. You can see the snow starting to fall down. That was earlier this morning. And of course the dogs always having a great time in the snow. They do tend to love it out there. Look at that. So sweet. Now I have to be honest, I have family in Boone this afternoon, this morning. They got out there and they hit the hills. This is Brooks, my brother-in-law, their dog Reynolds, and then his niece Nora, who is from Charlotte, and they are really getting to go at it early this morning. As soon as the snow started to fall, Nora just took to the hill. No fear there, went right down it, and Reynolds, of course, checking to make sure she's okay. So, guys, if you're watching in Boone, thanks for sending that video in. And once again, we want to remind you to please send in your photos and videos. Our news director, Molly Kelleher, using the hashtag SnowBTV in Indian Land this morning with her kiddos catching snowflakes on the tongue. Too cute. Again, this is just my favorite part of the snow day, not the stuff when we have to talk about the serious power outages and the car accidents and the traffic, which of course we will keep you updated on, but we love to bring a little bit of joy as well, right, Kristen and Abby, when we can, and get these videos and pictures up there. So keep those coming for us.
Absolutely. They are so much fun to watch. I loved seeing your family. I love seeing little Fiona, Molly's daughter. Meanwhile, my dog has not gone potty all day because he hates the snow so much. So
that would be me as a
way.
dog. Yeah. I'd be like, no, I'm staying in.
Maddie,
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Great pictures. Love the pets and the kids. Probably my favorite. All right, more great videos showing the impact ice is having on air travel. Charlotte Douglas International Airport shared these videos of crews removing ice that's been built up on those airplanes. Crews have also been working to remove ice collected on the runways. As of 10:30 this morning, more than 1,100 flights had to be canceled from Charlotte Douglas due to that winter storm. Now, the winter storm is forcing several COVID-19 testing sites to temporarily close. StarMed making the decision to close all locations here in Charlotte today. And if you're waiting on a result from a test you've already taken, StarMed says the call center and labs are open and they will continue to process those test results.
Novant Health also making the decision to temporarily close COVID-19 testing sites. They plan to close their testing locations and vaccine sites in Charlotte and Huntersville on Monday. The Charlotte location is on Baldwin Avenue and the Huntersville location is on North Cross Drive. COVID-19 testing and vaccinations will resume on Tuesday.
Hey, right now we are getting a live look at Wingate University, and as you can see, the snow has stopped coming down out there, but it's a bit of a slush situation, and you can see a couple of people walking across the street, but outside of that, it's a bit of a ghost town.
Yeah, that's tough too, because when that slushy stuff really freezes hard, that's a tough situation to drive on as well. So don't be fooled by that in any capacity. All right, let's get over to meteorologist Al Conklin. He is busy in the First Alert Weather Center. The cold and the wind, Al, are what are really making me nervous now.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think that's going to be the next element of this. As this storm system just winds up, I'm going to take you up to Brawley Middle School. Now, this is in Mooresville at about exit 34 or so, right before you get to 36 and 150. And again, you notice, the streets are covered there. And look at that tree just sort of swaying in that strong breeze. And that's because this system is sort of consolidating and winding up. The upper level low behind it is coming through, and all this is going to push northward and eastward, but we're dealing with very strong winds now. And on top of that, of course, the precipitation continues to fall. It's pretty much straight sleet here in Charlotte. Sleet and freezing rain to the south, and you'll get into rain as you get down towards Columbia, but then we go north of town and it's a mixture of sleet and snow. Even in the mountains now, just got Phil English from Linville just called me, said got solid 8 inches of snow up there, but even there, a little bit of sleet is starting to mix in, so that at least if for a couple of hours, that warm nose that we've talked about, and you probably have heard it ad nauseum now, but that's part of the equation here is you get this little stripe of warm air that's just above the surface, because certainly you step outside and it's not very warm right now, and it's not going to be, but there's just enough that as the precipitation falls, it can either melt and then refreeze, which is sleet, or if it melts and then hits the ground, it's more than likely going to be freezing rain. But even that process has made it into the mountains. But as this whole thing sort of pushes off towards the east, that should end that process. And on the backside, there's colder air. So I think we're going to go back into snow this afternoon and this evening for all of us. These temperatures are mostly in the 20s to low 30s. We have one location, Chesterfield, that's at 34. Rockingham's at 33, as is Wadesboro. Everybody else is either at freezing or below freezing. And so there's not going to be much melting here. The sun's going to be down in a few hours, and we're not looking at a big warm up. We may ease up towards about 33, 34 for 1 or 2 hours here, 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon. But then on the backside of this, again, here comes colder air, and again, I think we transition to snow. On top of that, these are the current wind gusts that we have right now. 20 in Boone, 22 in Hickory, 25 Gastonia, 32 in Statesville. We had a report of 42 in Matthews earlier, and it's 35 the wind gusts right now in Monroe. So very strong winds are blowing out there as that precipitation just continues to work itself northward. This is 2 o'clock this afternoon, it's 3 o'clock. So again, we may get into a little bit of rain again down here towards Monroe, Lancaster, but notice the blue that takes back over. So I think that's an indication of the colder air that comes through. And by the way, as the storm system works itself northward and eastward, on the backside of it, we'll get what we call an upslope flow, meaning those air parcels are coming up on the other side of the mountain. So up here in Ashwaubenon, Avery, Mitchell, Yancey counties, you're going to continue to get snow even for tonight and tomorrow morning before things die on down. So they're the current winds, just the straight winds, but it'll be a windy and cold afternoon. Now, one other thing I do want to point out is if you've missed this, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I think as we go into Monday and Tuesday, we're dry, mostly sunny skies outside of the mountains. But then Wednesday, increasing clouds, we will get a frontal system to come through with rain, and there may be a little bit of snow on the backside of it. I don't think it's a huge deal, though. But the models indicate that this will push southward and eastward early on Thursday morning, and then we're drying out for Friday and probably most of Saturday. Now, there are major timing differences, even on this model since this morning, but they do indicate that there'll be cold air in place as we close out the work week and that we may potentially get into another system. And again, take this for what it's worth at this point. This is kind of a trendsetter, just like we had a week ago with the first time that we saw this current storm system coming. But it shows you sort of a trend that there would be cold enough air in place and Gulf and Atlantic moisture that we could get into more snow. So we've got a first alert out. The timing on this is going to be adjusted, so stick with us here. Alicia, Rachel, Lee, and Jason and I, we will keep you posted on this, but frankly, it looks like we may be getting into another system. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen more than likely in January and February around here. Folks that are snow lovers, they always ask, when is it snow? Well, if it doesn't happen now, unless you get some late season burst in March, this is the time that it's going to happen. So we may be quite busy again later on in the week watching that system. Again, it could be Friday, could be Saturday. We'll know more as we get into the next couple of days. I'm going to send it back over to Lee. She's in the First Alert Weather Center, and she's been right there with me the whole time, keeping track on this. And Lee, I am kind of concerned about those strong winds here this afternoon, this evening.
Yeah, so let's talk about those winds a little bit more. They already have been picking up. We've had reports of 20, 30, even 40 mile per hour wind gusts this afternoon. These are your current wind speeds. We have a 12 mile per hour wind in Boone, 18 in Gastonia, 25. That's your current wind speed in Albemarle, 21 in Monroe, and 10 in Rock Hill. So those winds are already picking up, and they're going to do so even more as we head into the second part of your day. I do, though, want to take a look at temperatures before I get to that. So then we'll take a look at what it feels like outside, your wind chill. These are your actual temperatures. It is 24 right now in Statesville, 25 Shelby, 32 Rock Hill, 31 in Albemarle, 27 is your current temperature in Boone. If we factor in those winds, this is what it actually feels like outside. So this is one reason it's just not very pleasant to be outside right now. It feels like 10 degrees in Statesville, 24 Rock Hill, 13 in Salisbury, and also in Shelby. 17 is what it feels like in Boone for now. So for the rest of the day, those temperatures are going to feel even colder than they technically are because of the wind. And then we have the wind gusts even higher than that. So those are the sustained winds I just showed you. The gusts could be even higher. So if there is any ice on the trees, we've actually been really fortunate. For the past couple of hours, most of us have seen more sleet than freezing rain. So far, we haven't seen those huge ice accumulations on the trees, and that is very good news. But if you have any of that where you are, these wind gusts, they can really cause some trouble. Heading into the evening hours, the wind does die down just a bit. First thing out the door tomorrow morning, we have those winds picking back up again in the 20 to 25 mile per hour range. So that's what it looks like as far as winds are concerned tomorrow morning. It is going to be cold first thing, plus it's going to be breezy, and those roads, they're going to be kind of a mess. So that's what it's looking like. We're going to send things back over to you.
All right, Lee, thank you very much. We want to get back over to our Courtney Cole. She is live in Marshall Park.
Yes, and she is tracking what looks like a winter wonderland out there. So how's it shaping up for you, Courtney?
Good afternoon, ladies. It's very beautiful. The pond is starting to freeze over. I'll show y'all that in a few minutes, but I want to pick up on something Lee and Al just said about the wind. It definitely makes it feel a lot colder out here, and I kid you not, it blew me down the sidewalk when I was walking to do my live shot and get ready to speak to you all. It's blown several branches away out here in Marshall Park. Let's take a walk closer to this little pond that we have over here. You can see the wind rippling across the water, but to show just how cold it is out here and how we're starting to see more ice start to form, even right here on the water. That's a thin layer of ice. I would not recommend stepping on it, touching it, or anything like that. But again, just to show how cold it is here, we're going to go ahead and pan across the street back to South McDowell and East 3rd Street. You see limbs blowing, bushes blowing. Cars are still traveling out here. Not too many, but there are people driving, some at various speeds. I've seen a lot of people actually taking heed to the caution that we've told them today. Slow down, pump your brakes. Don't be in a rush to go anywhere. But we have seen some people drive a little faster than normal, even going down the wrong direction on the one-way street. Some people drifting. So just want to remind you all the message that we've heard from safety crews and officials all morning and afternoon. Limit your travel, only do essential travel right now, and just remember to slow down, give other cars their distance, and especially give emergency crews and DOT vehicles their distance as well. So we're going to continue to stay out here in Marshall Park and see how things are shaping up, but the biggest thing and change right now is the wind and still that sleet that's coming down. I'm going to go ahead and send it back to you all in the studio. For now, I'm live in Marshall Park. Courtney Cole, WVTV, on your side.
All right, Courtney, thank you very much. We want to head back up to the mountains this afternoon. There has been plenty of snow on the ground up there.
WVTV's Liliana Pearson up in Boone for us right now. Liliana, you saw a family actually visiting from Florida.
I absolutely did. Earlier today, we were hanging out here in the parking lot. Lots of people that were getting ready to go skiing and go snowboarding. But there was one family that caught my eye, and it was because I met a family from Florida. They were having an epic snow fight. I was told by their family that they come down here every year around this time of year to come and enjoy the seasonal activities, the skiing and the snowboarding, but they could only make it about halfway up the mountain, but because of road conditions and a backup of cars, they had to turn around and come back. They wanted to make the most of it, so they settled for having an epic snowball fight.
Usually come this weekend every year, or the long weekend in February. So this is around the time we're here, and I think last couple of times we've been here, it's been raining or it's been a little bit hotter. So we were excited we were going to get snow, maybe a little bit more than we bargained for though.
And the snow conditions are definitely changing by the minute out here. It wasn't too long ago that I was checking in with you guys, and we had these big fat flakes that were falling. Now it's very small icy flakes that when the wind blows, you can definitely feel them stinging your face. But let's go ahead and take a look at the roads that this family was talking about and having a hard time navigating. You can probably collect why. You can see them here. We've seen plows going by. We've seen them plowing them and putting down salt, but it's just snowing so much here today. It's hard to keep all the snow off of it, so people definitely going slow, taking their time if they are trying to get out and get up the mountains. But we've also seen a lot of families opting to stay at their hotels, coming back and parking, deciding it's just not worth it. So make sure that you're being safe, taking your time. You don't want to be slipping and sliding out on these roads. In Boone, I'm Liliana Pearson, WBTV, on your side.
Liliana, before we let you go, Al just said she's got sleet falling on her. Is that changing? Because for so long, the flakes were so big and light and fluffy and the snow looked so fluffy. Now is it putting sort of a hard crust on top of the snow that had already fallen, or what does it feel like out there?
I wouldn't say it's so much that there's like a hard, well, actually, I think that is exactly what I would call it. It's just these very small icy pebbles It's definitely not an icy crust on top of it by any means. Nothing is really melting and refreezing. So we aren't seeing any snow on branches, on power lines, anything like that. But you might be able to hear it a little bit on the umbrella that we have set up over our camera, that kind of tinkling sound. And it's because it goes from in between these really big fat flakes and all of a sudden it becomes this more icy consistency.
All right, Liliana, thank you. We'll get the science piece of that from Al here in just a few minutes. But man, that sounds like something.
And please get some gloves on. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Liliana. The time right now is 12:49, and we do want to check in with our Maddie Gardner, who is in the newsroom monitoring those outages for us. I know that Duke Energy at one point said 750,000 customers could potentially deal with outages. So what's it looking like at this hour?
Yes, that is what Duke is prepared for. They actually have 11,000 response workers ready to go. But remember, they have to wait until the storm really moves through because it's dangerous for them to be out there restoring power while the precipitation is still falling. But they are staged and ready to go. This includes linemen. It also includes vegetation workers in case trees fall on power lines. And once we get about a 1/4 inch of ice, we do expect that to be happening. Let's take a look at the outage map now. You can see this is zoomed into the Charlotte area. Still not too many outages to report. We are all knocking on wood, but we are preparing for more outages throughout the day. And you can see once those outages are popping up on the map, they'll give you a little bit of an update about how many customers are affected. And if it's possible, they'll also tell you what caused that outage. This one just reported about an hour ago at 11:40. But of course, once the power goes off, it gets cold pretty quickly in these conditions. So hopefully once the storm moves through, those linemen and those workers will be able to get out. Here's a wider look at what we're seeing across the Carolinas, where those outages are. And earlier today, the governor said already 41,000 North Carolinians are without power. So linemen and crews are standing by ready to get to work, but you can see more outages popping up throughout the day, and that's what we expect once again as that ice starts to fall. I also want to remind you that we have the real-time maps and numbers to call for any energy providers right now on WBTV.com. You can easily find that on our homepage, and it's a good reminder just to program that into your phone. Go ahead and charge all of your devices, all of your phones, and get ready just in case you should lose power today.
All right, Maddie, thank you. One of our executive producer, Brian, he just drove in from the Steel Creek area, and he sent us a note about how the road conditions were. And basically what he said is every indication that you should stay off the roads. He said they were only going 10 miles an hour on South Tryon. 77 wasn't too bad, but still very, very slick. And he got a little stuck at one point because it was so slippery and slick. So just stay home.
Don't head out unless you have to.
Nope.
Yep. And DOT is doing their job also.
Yep.
Well, we do have David Hodges live from an area near 485 in Elm right now. David, what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, so I've been taking a look at 485 because, as we know, this is a road that oftentimes people are driving fast on, sometimes dangerously. Also, this is right next to the Ray Road exit where there is a little bit of construction, and also there was that fatal crash not too long ago. But from what I've seen, people are driving relatively slowly, and the roads are actually looking pretty clear on I-485. Now, as people approach the exit right there, you can see a little bit of that sleet, snow, melt, ice mesh that is kind of compiled there a little bit, and people kick that up when they take the exit. So I've noticed that people are taking that pretty slowly, but so far I-485 has looked pretty good. Now the roads surrounding it and getting onto it are a whole different story. Elm right behind me here is completely covered in a sleet, and drivers are taking that pretty slow right now. One point to put out there, I did see a driver drive by who had the majority of their windshield covered in that sleet. It's just, first off, you should not be coming out here. Second off, if you do have to drive, make sure that your windshield is completely uncovered. There's nothing left on it, because that can be a huge hazard when you're driving. And you know what I've seen a lot of, and what I'm actually seeing in this parking lot behind me over here right now next to the Regal Cinema, I'm seeing a lot of those Ford F-150s, those trucks that are plowing some of these roads in some of the neighborhoods, making sure that there is sleet off of that, as well as putting down some of that brine. But it is pretty treacherous out there. On my street, actually, it's a slight, and actually, as I'm seeing this right now, there's a Jeep that is absolutely losing control as they pulled out of the entrance. And as they're continuing to go, actually, let's see if they regain control here really quick. Looks like they got it. Well, it is a Jeep after all, so you'd expect them to be just okay. But that's example 1A of why you probably don't want to be coming outside on a day like today. If a Jeep is struggling to exit a movie theater parking lot and is spinning out like that, probably not a good idea for you to try and brave these conditions. So let us stay out here and tell you what it's like, and if you can, please just stay home. Guys, back to you.
David, that's for sure. It doesn't matter what kind of car you drive on ice, you can't get any traction. Thank you so much. We got some great video into our newsroom. Look at this guy. Oh my gosh, this is taken by our managing editor, Michael Cable. This is his dog. The dog's name is Brutus, and Brutus is seeing his very first snow.
Adorable. With an adorable name to match.
I know. I know. Okay, let's get back over to meteorologist Al Conklin. This is not your very first snow, sir. Not in the least. But this has been a wild one.
Yeah, there's a lot of elements to this thing. And one of the things I just wanted to go back to and talk a little bit about what's happening in the mountains right now. There's the area of low pressure. So there's rain up the coast, and on the backside, again, colder air is filtering back in. So it's changing back to snow. But what's happening is that air that's being shoved up into the mountains now, I'm getting lots of reports that saying the temperatures are going from like 16 to 28 in 10 minutes and 24 to 32 in 15 minutes. That warm air aloft is being shoved up into the mountains now. And that's why you saw Liliano go from very heavy snow to a mixture of snow and sleet to almost pure sleet now. So what happens is, again, when you've got cold air like they've had pretty much all morning long through the column from the clouds all the way to the surface in the mountains, snow falls, no problem at all. Where you have warm air, and again, it's rain, but it's in between where we've had a little bit of everything. And the reason for that is that warm air that we talk about that gets mixed into the system. So the snow falls out of the clouds and it may hit this fairly shallow layer of warm air, and then it refreezes. And that's the sleet pellets that we're hearing bouncing off of our reporters' jackets and onto the street, where that warm layer is a little bit thicker. Well, that melts, and by the time it gets to the surface, it doesn't have a chance to really do much of anything other than when it hits the ground and it's below freezing, it refreezes, and that's freezing rain. So this is sort of what we're seeing now, is just sort of sleet and snow coverage here. This is downtown Belmont, and this could be almost any community in our viewing area, where, again, we're still tracking snow and sleet across the mountains and the foothills. Down into the Piedmont, it's more sleet than anything, but we're getting some of that warm air now coming right up 321. So places like Linville, Boone, Blowing Rock, West Jefferson getting into some of the sleet. I don't think it's going to last all that long. I think you'll actually transition back to snow, and snow showers will continue there tonight. And it's a mixture of snow and sleet across most of the metro area. You have very good snow. Burke County, McDowell County, Rutherford, Cleveland County, Lincoln County, down into Gaston. Very good snow earlier this morning. Now it's a sleet mixture, and even a little bit of rain you get south of Lancaster here and over towards Chesterfield, where temperatures are now coming up a little bit above freezing. So as we go through the afternoon, we'll just slowly watch that rain line try to get up here, but then watch what happens on the backside. The cold air comes in and we transition back to snow. And I think those snow showers will continue in the mountains before everybody else sort of dries out. Tonight, overnight lows are going to fall back down into the 20s for just about all communities. Right now, we're in the 20s, but again, this is a big improvement in Boone. You were 19 degrees this morning, so now you're up to 28. It's actually warmer there than it is in Statesville, where it's 24, 27 Concord, 28 in Gastonia. You're at freezing now, Monroe, Wingate, and back towards Rock Hill and Gastonia. Gusty winds about 20 to 25, 30, 35, maybe even 40 miles per hour around Albemarle. So there's your concern. You've got freezing rain and sleet, and wind gusts up to 35 and 40 and 45 miles per hour. Beyond all this, we will quiet down here for Monday and Tuesday. However, first alerts for the morning hours, because we're concerned about freezing temperatures and any ice and snow on those roadways. So watch that. We'll get a frontal system here Wednesday into Thursday, and then we're not 100% sure on the timing on this, so check back with us. Alicia Wilson, Rachel Coulter, Jason Myers will be here this afternoon, this evening, to talk you through this. But we've got another first alert for either Friday or Saturday. It's going to be somewhere in there where there's a potential for another storm system, which could be a sizable one, coming back our way. All right, I'm going to send it back to you at the desk, Abby and Kristen.
All right, Al, thank you. You're going to want to make sure that you have your WBTV weather app handy. You'll need it all day into tomorrow to track this winter storm. You can follow live radar and stream our content live throughout the day. Plus, you can also see that real-time power outage situation in both North and South Carolina. You also want to make sure that your phones are charged up, as we always are giving you that valuable information.
We are going to keep you informed throughout the day, online and on WBTV News Now.